Marvellous. Great playing. Fantastic. I had the pleasure of hearing you play that in Blackwell's. Maybe some of you were there a week or so ago, so it's great to hear it again. I love... Oh, we have a translator, don't we? So, I love many of the things you do, and particularly the wonderfully sort of sparkly character that you get from the Mendelssohn. So this is a very important element. I mean, this wonderful vitality that Mendelssohn has, this constant energy. And many of these quartets, there are a lot of notes. I mean, I often advocate a contract that pays us by the note for Mendelssohn, because we'd all be very wealthy musicians at the end of our lives. But that character is very important, and the danger is that the notes become a chore, if you like. And I think it's marvellous the way that you keep everything up in the air with this, and as I say, the sparkle of it. There are one or two things I think that you need to have more of a feel and more of a perhaps observe a little more in that you're playing. And one of them is, in general, I think, in the sound quality, to try and have a larger range of sound, particularly at the lower level. It's very interesting in Mendelssohn that he, not in this quartet, I think it's in the D major. I think there's one passage where there are at least, he writes pianissimo, and then about 8 bars later, another pianissimo with nothing in between, and then about 8 bars later, another pianissimo with nothing in between as well. And yet, they all have incredibly different colours and characters of sound, and I think we have to be, in general, it's a rough rule, but actually quite a useful one, I think, that the lower dynamics, in a way, we have to have a larger range of tone colours, of tone characters and things. And I think that in the quieter levels sometimes, and there is one place, isn't there, where there's a pianissimo, and then I think another one, and one of them is dark, and one of them is a lighter. We'll find it later on. But there's one place certainly in the score where I noticed that, where it's pianissimo, and then there's nothing marked, and then another pianissimo. And yet the characters and the colours have to be very different from those. That's one area. Maybe we'll do a little bit, go through the exposition. The other area, I think, with this piece is to recognise where the relationship of the music to the main beats. So specifically, syncopations and things, and how, when music is not on the main beats, how that is part of the energy of the music that moves it forwards. It feels to me that you play, there are a lot of slurs in this movement that come off the second crotchet. So, ba-da-little-lum, pom, 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 ba-da-little-lum, pa, ti, ti, ti. And they play very well, but I feel that you play them as a bowing, but not necessarily as a breathing. It's interesting. And then you have a series of syncopations, and then often perhaps you get the main beat down. But actually, if you look at the opening, there's a lot of syncopation there, even so. And interesting that your opening slur, da-yam, so he needs a strong downbeat, so he has to put a sforzo on the downbeat, but the forte is on the upbeat, da-da-da-da-lam. But then the entry is not on the main beat, pa-dee-da-da-dee. And even within that, you have 4 crotchets slurred, and then again, or 4, shall I use the American? That would help, wouldn't it? You've got 4 quarter notes, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then again, the bowing, you understand, comes from the second. I feel that you can, when you play, sometimes can get more of that character for that. Yeah, and then he repeats, da-dum, bum, 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 ba-lil-yum, ba-bum, ba-lil-yum, ba-bum. Ba-lil-yum, ba-bum, 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 ba-2. And then this big sforzando in that bar is again on a syncopated position. Ti, dum, bum, 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 bum. I like the tempo you play very much, but sometimes I think you can just stand on it a fraction and then let it roll again. Maybe even a yum ba-dum 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 ba-ba, ya ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, jum, and even that chord is on a syncopated chum. Yeah, just begin once. I'll go back over here, probably the best place. But begin once and just see. And it's to do with using the bow, your wonderful bow, control. And we're taught often to play very even bows. I think you have to almost breathe a little bit more before the entry there. So let's go from the beginning. Yeah, very good. And now there's also pa-da-da-dum, pa-dum, isn't it? I think they're all, yeah. It's interesting because you have the separated note, but all the others have the slur into there. So da-da-da-dum, pa-yum. You understand? Yes, so ti-dum, ti-da-da-dum, pa-yum, ta-yum. And then da-li-yum, ba-bum, then we join on the downbeat. Da-li-yum, ba-dum. Yum, ba-bum, 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 that T, jump, jump. And at that moment, he uses the syncopation to completely suspend us in the air. Lovely. From the beginning. Da-da-da-dum, T-da-da-dum, pa-dum. Well, lovely. And so now you must respond to that because they've driven you twice. Dum, ta-dum, da-da-dum, ba-dum, pa-dum, ya-dum. Go further for the C natural B flat. One more time. Bum, ba-dum, speak it. Bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. Yeah, I wonder whether you cut, your ensemble is marvellous there. But I da, 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 da. At the moment I dum, pa, da, da. I hear that stop a little. Pa, da, da. It's in a way, it's almost that you momentarily you have a big stone that rolls off the top of one of the hills. Dee, da, 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 da. Just let it roll. At the moment it goes da, 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 da. It's slightly two. That was great, when you went out. I love that because it takes us on a progression. It moves us forward with the music. One more time from the beginning. Not too fast. Lum-ba-bum, not too fast. Okay, very good. So maybe at the very opening, you don't work quite so hard at the opening in the E flat major. Light, perhaps even here for the opening, a light, not such a heavy sound. Then save it for here. You understand? Yeah. So that the da-da-la-la, the D flat, da-da-la-la. We have the E flat the first time. Now the D flat here. Just play me the first bar on your own, and then play me the next one after the rhythm. Yeah, maybe, maybe don't work it too hard. I think if the forte here is, how can I put it? I think it's an exuberance, celebratory, isn't it? It's a very celebratory key, E flat major, I think, certainly in the hands of Mendelssohn. So it doesn't want to feel too hard, and even your colleagues, pa, pa. I want to be up there with and you're very young, so their brows don't have many lines, but it mustn't have too much here at the beginning. Da-da-la-lam, ba-da-la-la. The next one, then, little bit. But don't do too many anyway. Otherwise they come all too soon then for the rest of us. So. But go from the beginning one more time. Just keep it, don't be too serious at the opening in a way. Keep it very lively. And so you're ta-yum, ba-dum, pa-dum, ta-da-li-yum, ti-da-da-dum, pa-dum. So the second one less than the first one, you see what I mean? So the most is this one, and then slightly less. And it says forte, but not too effortful here. You'll need it later. Yeah? Okay, one more time. That's great, because you see how you've already created, I think. I mean, it's for me, I'm listening with rose-tinted earmuffs, but it sounded fun. It sounded, and then you have room for that darker colour. So all the time you have to be aware, not just of what you're doing at that moment, but also it's in the context of that. That's really terrific. Just one small thing, just breathe before the second one. Yes, just you can breathe a fraction more there if you would like at that point. Okay, fantastic. So let's go on from the minor one. Yeah, and again, it almost feels too soon. So just breathe between the phrases a little bit more. Lovely. That may be a little too long that time, but it's it's the right idea, and there are many places in this where we momentarily the time just can stop a moment. It probably will still even fit the metronome. And the other thing is that time in itself has no meaning in music except as a slave to something else, if you understand. Do you want to? Oh, we're fine. We're okay. They're nodding anyway. They're doing the Spanish girl and all nodding at me. The time in itself, but it has to be. But you have to have the time because of the change of character. You understand what I mean? And then it needs time, or it needs time because there's a big interval. There's always a reason. In itself, it has no meaning, but as an extra to help something happen, then it's a very important. Very good. I still think that sometimes you play the dotted figures, but you don't quite speak it. As I said in the previous group, it's this balance of the spoken and the sung. It's an important one for as string players for our articulation. Can we begin there? So that are you good with numbers? Do you have upbeat to 15? Fantastic. It still stays longer than what you need to change the color of the sound, if that makes sense. Do you understand? You see what I mean? It stays on the E flat. Maybe you can leave it later to die off the sound of the E flat. But if you go da, I'm going to die. One more time. Don't rush. It feels almost rushed. Okay, good. Two things here. The balance is a little bit dangerous here. I need to hint out a little bit, maybe a little more solistically. Perhaps underneath, because we are all playing quite legato, just be careful that it's not maybe too much vibrato or too rich. Make sure that I can hear the melody clearly. La 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 dum bum. Again, remember in the first group, ya da 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 bum bum. The spoken element again is ya ya dum, and I would see the E flat, the long note. The end of the long note is the beginning of it's the first note of the quavers. At the moment it goes da 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 da. Ya la da dum. Ya la la da dum bum. That's the main voice. And then it's interesting. La 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 da dum ba da 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 dum. Ya da 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 dum. That is almost a syncopation to the bar line, if you see what I mean. And one da and one da and 1, 2, 3, 4, and again at the cadence there are more beats there. So you do these things, but I sometimes think that in rehearsal it would be useful for you to sort of take them in some ways, sort of exaggerate them, and then put them back together and forget about them, but leave them as your sort of bread and butter, or I don't know what your equivalent is, rice and something or other, but at that point. Marvellous. Can we play la 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 dum? So from bar 19, is that all right? Dum ba. Yeah, those quavers. Da 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 dum bum. Yeah da 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 dum. I think they can be spoken a little more. tam pa tam tam pum 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 pum. What? This is a question because it's difficult. I'm not sure that I hear quite the voicing that I need. So, da-da-da-da-lum, da-da-da-da-lum, la-da-da-da-lum, da-da-da-da-lum. I think it may be just in the semiquavers when you come in. It's not completely clear, is it? I hear suddenly one voice. I think either it has to be very democratic or maybe I have to just... For me, I could hear the top voice a little bit more. That was beautiful into there, lovely. Should we go from 32? It's marvellous because you're very clear on your entries, but I slightly hear, I sort of hear too many accents in a way. He's given it to all of you, but at the moment it feels a little bit too much like that, I think. I would actually, at this point, slightly play through the semiquavers each of you, and maybe not quite such a spark of light at the beginning of each of them. And then, because that would also leave you to the second violin. Same again. Even more. Just try and sing through them a fraction more. I'll go and come back and hear it from a distance in my belt. Sing it. So again, two things here. Yum bum bum bum. I would quite strong on that second quaver. Yum bum 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 bum. Yum bum 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 bum. I think so. I think again the slight syncopation position of that will pull us forward. And then this canonic again. The canonic sort of yada little 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 bum 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 yada little 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 little. Again, the two characters really quite strongly different. And then da dum bum bum bum. Yum. Wonderful variation there for you. But I need to hear it. Mendelssohn, he's used up ink going up the letter line. From bar 40. And again, when you come in on the fortissimo, not too much accent. Can you be ya la la? So ya little little, and the moment I hit ba little, that's slightly too strong. It's marked fortissimo, but I think that's exuberance. Not too much, not quite so hard an accent on that. Can we just play from ya little 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 little? Again, here with the tom pom pom pom. For me, slightly it sounds tom pa, slightly too strong on the downbeat. Pom 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 pom, and he da 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 da. He begins always on the semiquavers. They change the harmony. Yes, on the fourth. You see what I mean? 4-1 or and 1 and 1. And again, and 1, 2. You understand? The slow again is in a syncopated position here. And I think it's important also because otherwise the music can sound a little bit too square. You know, this expression is a little bit too... And I think always he's leaning off the main beats and things. It's a very important element of this. Can we begin at 46? Just first violin play and the others come in at the end of the bar. It's not, I think, yeah, tom, tom, And also, pam, 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 little more spoken, but also perhaps a little more, the darker colour again. You remember the darker colour at the opening? Pam, pam. No, don't write it. Don't write it, no. I always say to students, don't write anything in the parts that you're told in a lesson, because either you will remember it if it's important, and if it's wrong, the worst thing in the world is to have this instruction marked in the part, and sometimes you turn up with parts that have been used for many years and not rubbed out. You can hardly see the notes for pencil markings. But it's actually very important in lessons to not take every detail sometimes, but just to take an idea, and as a group you have to process that and take on board some things, reject other things, use it in a certain way. It's not necessarily a matter of instruction. You understand what I mean? So just it's just perhaps ideas, not they're ideas of ways of approaching the music or seeing it. Maybe more importantly, because you play wonderfully, so it's not a matter of just these little characters. I think is important. Dark colour here. Just give you a little bit of quartet craft. When you have tutti, the sforzando there, it has to sound as if you make it all the same way, but very slightly. I think the first violin you have to just not release quite so quickly. Do you understand what I mean? So you're left, the voicing stays with you because everyone is playing the same thing. Otherwise, it all disappears too. Yeah, and also there's still this element. Again, slightly the element of the Boldo, the rock on the top of the hill. So it rolls off the top of that. Let's do the same passage one more time. And it's a surprise, isn't it? Because it's gone to many quite dark minor keys, and then suddenly it's the light, the sun comes out there in unison. Note there, it feels it goes slightly dead. It dies slightly too soon in the singing character. That's fantastic. I like that, and you can even in the tempo you've got a little bit of flexibility, I think. And this long phrase, then he has a long phrase. Should we just begin at F? And here are lots of beats. Finally, the semiquavers, which have been a little bit like a texture, becomes more rhythmical. This is bar 69, yes? Very good. Okay, just again, two small details. Although you have a crescendo, I would enjoy but you see how the syncopation again the movement of the music is in syncopation there. So it's important, I think, it keeps the character. And then the sforzando, I wouldn't be too hard on the sforzando here. It has to be that shape in order that you can have the two-bar phrase. Do you understand? Wonderful. Shall we just begin at bar 73? Beautiful, fantastic. And again, so you see how the long lines and then the shorter things and the events. And often on these canonic, they sort of have to be one gesture somehow, so they're not too even. Yeah, that was marvellous. I still feel your top notes. Ya, ya, pa, pa, pom. And actually this time he even writes forte and then the piano there. And see again that the first note of the quavers is really the end of the G, yes, rather than the F. Do you understand what I mean? So D. That was lovely, the shape. And the thing with the word crescendo, it's a very rough rule, but quite a useful one, that it doesn't mean every note has to be louder than the next. It's a directional thing in the music. In total, it has to do that, but it doesn't obliterate the shapes of phrases and things. A very rough rule, but then if there's a hairpin, that often means one note. You understand, it's different. So here's a good example. It's in total there's a crescendo there, but it doesn't stop the line of the phrase. And that was great, the way you extended then the two bars. And it means that we're not hearing everything. Yeah, otherwise it gets a little bit too regular somehow. So and he's changing it all the time. Everything's changing. Should we just begin with the upbeat to 89 now? Same thing, again, I think your long note is actually becomes the first note of 4, not da 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 da. Very sometimes, not always, but sometimes it goes la la da da la ya la la 2 1 again. The espressivo is, if you like, on a syncopation to the bar line there. There's a slight danger you play da ya da da. Sits just slightly too, puts too strong a footstep down. Can you just play once this figure, only once for me, but can you play F natural, change the bow for the A flat, don't just play a minim, a half note on the A flat, and then slur across to the G. So F, A flat, G, G, B flat, A. Just one with the tutti, though everyone play at 92. So 2, 1, 2. Exactly. I think, for me, I think that is the. See, so even though this da 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 dum, if it's too strong on that, it has an intensity absolutely, which is beautiful, and in total the phrase is lifting. Tutti from there. That's ta-dum, 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 pum, pa, pum, pa. It's the same figure, twice as fast, yeah? So again, the syncopated. For me, that was lovely. The second one was just perfect. But just be careful, because there's a danger we sit on our long notes with lots of rich vibrato, like tomato ketchup. Put it all on. But at that point, maybe the listener has to. And again, you expect and again, the most expressive note on a syncopated dish. Again, the same. Again. So there's a lot of that music in there. But anyway, for now, let's begin just 104. The piano wouldn't speak it quite a lot, that one. Great. I mean, it's coming. Yes, there's a lot of many fantastic things. It's interesting. Da dum pum pum ba dum pum pum ba and one again in the syncopated position. Should we just play from the development? Yum ba bum, but I think it's da little yum ba bum, yum bum. Can you just play that little in two crotchets or two quarter notes? Da little yum bum, ba little yum bum. Yes, yum bum. Yeah, yeah. And now decorated with yum ba bum, ba little yum ba bum. Very tough as a string player. Maybe your bow not too much on the fingerboard, just a little bit. The clarity is not quite as good as some of the things, most of the things you do with one board. And maybe the bow a little bit straighter, just to see. Yeah. And then it's extended. You see, so if you go it doesn't work with how he moves on after it. Whereas and again, the crescendo doesn't stop the yum da dum da yum da dum da yum da dum da yum da dum da dum. Can we pick it up from that part now? So that's the upbeat 116. I hear the G. I hear yum ba bum ba bum ba bum yum ba bum ba yum ba bum ba yum ba bum ba yum. I would have minim beats for that. So the A flat yum ba bum ba yum ba bum ba yum ba bum ba bum. One more time. Strong, yeah, and again, possibly your bow not too near the fingerboard. Yeah. So that again, that quiet, but it's but the lid is on it, but there's pressure. There's pressure in this underneath the lid. We hold the lid on the lid. That's great. I think for me that shape is the right structure for it, and then. And again, it's interesting, your crotchet movement here, again, is syncopated, isn't it? Ta-da-da-dum, ta-da-dee-dum, like the opening when that comes. Let's do that one more time from the Let's do it from the viola one now. So this is upbeat to 1, 2, 4. Two things. I hate dum. I hate dum 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 ba-da-dum ba-dum ba-da-dum da-da-dum ba-dum. Better, yeah. You have to work at the semiquavers a little bit more. Can we begin right on there where that occurs? So that is the upbeat to 132. Yes, again, so da-la-yum bum ba-dum bum bum da-la-yum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum bum ba-da-da-da-yum bum bum. Lovely. So can we begin the same place? It's easiest. You see, and one, because it almost think one in a bar, and then you've got this, and that's for me that then has this wonderful energy, and it creates the drive and justifies the movement. I mean, we may have got a little bit slow because I've stopped you far too many times, so forgive me. That's great. That's a great sound, but it's not comfortable music here. I mean, it's really on the move in the development. We'll try just to get to the recapitulation, which is not too far away. We'll certainly get to somewhere where we can relax before we stop. So, where's a good place? Let's begin where we got to. So 148. Two bars that stay sort of stationary in a sense, or even though there's a slight crescendo. Pom 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 pom. I don't know. I'm tempted to rock in the time with the and then, but incredible. Then the long line. So if you can get two bars, almost stay stationary in terms of that. I know there's a crescendo, but it's on the move crescendo rather than a getting louder one particularly. Should we begin right on there where, let me just find it again in the score, forgive me. This is 148 again, yeah. That little answering figure, I think you can be a little louder. And it's no problem for the balance because you're so low. That's lovely shape. I think the shape feels, for me, feels right now for that figure. We could just play on a little bit. I'll play on a little bit. Can we begin at 162? I must wind up. that's a good place to stop. We've got back to E flat major. Fantastic playing. Thank you very much. Perfect English, actually.
Okay.